Hi, I'm Sick Boy. Pete.
I am. I don't know who I am actually anymore. No, I'm not gonna give in that easy. I think I'll probably just stick with my Tech. Tech here.
So, we're here today to talk to you guys about the myth of gang stalking and the myth of organized harassment and the way that it's used as a cover for covert deep state programs.
If you're in the early stages and you hear us say the myth of gang stalking,
Don't take it personally.
don't take it personally. We'll get there.
We've been through it. We were converted believers for years.
We are not perpetrators.
No.
We do not work for CSIS, the CIA, the FBI, or the Mossad.
Nor any other private organization or any other group. We are targeted individuals, and we are here to tell you that there is another way to look at things.
For sure there is. It's a huge part of how we identify ourselves, I think, for sure. But we are also uh, both husbands and um, fathers and sons and friends and enemies and people. And it's hard not to let this thing become exactly who you are. But if you feel it and you know what's happening, don't turn away. Find it.
So let's focus on some of the things that happen when you're being gang stalked. You're followed around by fleets of cars, um, typically white or black, depending on what will get your goat that day. Everywhere you go in public places, private places, a graveyard, a shopping mart, the bank, your driveway, you know, you're basically going to be surrounded by people talking about personal things that pertain to you, that pertain to your personal thoughts, your personal habits, your private life, your sex life, um,
All everywhere.
everywhere. Yeah, you can't get away from it. And
That's exactly it.
most of you wants to believe that the world can't be that fucked up, can't be that evil, that there's hundreds of thousands of people like pursuing you. It's hard not to feel like isolated, alone, and well, hell, it's hard not to develop a complex of some kind.
Oh, for sure. A complex that you really live alone for a long time, unless you are, I think, in some cases, without coming across or steering away a whole crowd, unless God or whoever is out there in charge blesses you like the way that He has for sure me
And
with a mother and a brother and a sister and a daughter who sees, lives it with, beside, and loves.
as much as it hurts what's going on, try to laugh because that's more powerful than like any blow
Hmm.
that you can get.
Yeah. Well, it's funny these words come out like almost just instantaneously, and it's like you could attribute it to like the network, the neural network, right? I think something, he says it instantly, it happens. It has to do with probability and
What we're talking about is
yeah,
future analytics, probability, remote neural monitoring, um, forced speech, forced action, forced thought, implantation of personalities, body morphic changes.
For sure. I mean, they aren't doing experiments on rats.
No.
They're doing them on people. You want to know about people, you do it on people. You want to know about rats, then you can go ahead and look into rats and their chromosomes and their genetic makeup. But you want to know about people and how they'll react? You look at people, see how they will react. You will not ever get, not as a justification for their means or their sickness, you will never get proper results that are void of spurious. Uh, what am I saying? Results? Spurious. They'll only yield this spurious reasoning and give you false results, right? False positives.
Extraneous results.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Struggling. if the people don't know about it, otherwise you will never get good results.
Let me give you a brief example here for all you people being gang stalked. You're in the supermarket, you're surrounded by 20, 30 people at any given time. All of them are talking to you smack about you. All of them are being threatening to some degree or another. And even if it is just smack through talking, it's hard not to feel threatened, right?
Yeah.
So let me just put a bug in your ear and tell you that this program called remote neural monitoring that the US military and deep states from around the world are doing via satellite, they have the ability to take over groups of people around you for brief periods of time, control their bodies and minds.
Yeah.
So basically, they implant a soldier's personality or a harasser's personality into that person who's normally a good, loving, caring husband or wife or whatever. But for the moment that they're around you, they're a complete cunt. And that is because the deep state has the technology to replace them briefly. Um,
And fuck you guys at the garrison.
driver.
To the cross that Jesus died and gave his life on for us. Fuck you to it for eternity. You belong there and will stay there.
And to the garrison in Frankfurt, fuck you too. Anyway, we're off topic here.
And we ain't tough guys.
No. We're just not afraid to die. We don't really want to, like, be all, oh, let's go kill and maim and, like, yeah, no, it's not like that. But we've been through so much with this that we definitely aren't afraid to die for it.
The one riding on it was permitted to take peace from the earth so that people would slaughter one another, and he was given a great sword. When the Lamb opened, all of this stuff, maybe some of you have read from Revelation, it just didn't make any sense. It sounded like hocus pocus stuff from like the medieval ages. Well, it does sound like that to us because it's a representation of end times.
Technologies given by cavemen, basically.
Yeah. Destructive forces, battles above that transpire and start to happen around us in a way that drops the curtain between the physical and the metaphysical, the real, the unreal, us and invisible. And that's, I think, what it's a representation of. We talked about it a little bit the other day and sort of started to make a bit more sense with the horsemen of the apocalypse and the seven seals and becoming the thief and a lot of these things that I just hated growing up started to make sense because of this stuff. You read it with a different lens.
So let me talk a little bit more about remote neural monitoring, what's happened with me personally.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, carry on. I just need a pen.
Yeah, I got one.
Nope, it's all good.
What's happening to me personally and has been happening for 8 years is that through microwave and radio frequency technologies, the military or whoever, the deep state, and their cronies have been harassing me in my head with voices that up until recently only I could hear. I moved back to Canada from Europe, and it was at that time that I had my first shared experience where I was with my brother, who was with me here a moment ago.
Yeah,
He
I'm
had,
here.
he had his head next to mine, and he heard what this one harasser that I call rhubarb was saying. Um, so it validated it for me that there was something else going on besides, um,
Schizophrenia
schizophrenia
or
or
mental instability,
a bug in the tooth or mental instability.
genetics gone wrong.
And the technology is now in place. The deep state has in its use that is 150 years ahead of the technology that we have on the streets today. Think about what that means. You have this incredibly powerful device, a cell phone, that can not only read gyroscopic, magnetic, um, energetic, like the humidity, the direction. It has sensors in it galore, and you can get all sorts of information about your surroundings um, through through your cell phone. Just think about what they have at their disposal in their satellites.
Well, they gave us Snowden like they gave us the Matrix, right? It's only metadata. It's only Hollywood. And frequency is I am so understudied, unstudied, and unknowledgeable in so many areas. I want to get smarter, but generally, I mean, I've had healthcare professionals document it, and I open the file and reread what they've said about me, and they say, well, he's a guy of average intelligence. It made me feel pretty special. But I don't need to be super smart. I just need to be even a little bit aware of some of the things that are around me and want to know about them to um, uh, become more and more engulfed in truth and what that means to me and my daughter and my mom and my brother and my sister. If you open up just a little bit to the possibilities around you, that if you can entertain them, the things that you write off day to day because mostly you're ashamed of partaking in something that just seems crazy, if you can open up a little bit, you'll realize that those things actually make a whole heck of a lot more sense than not believing in them. Frequency is everywhere, and it is a hugely powerful force that was given to us um, for so many reasons. Just look at Tesla. I mean, you could branch off in so many areas, I guess, and I always want to in my ADD brain, but I mean, that's free energy, right? Free life, free humans, free people from deep state oppression, big pharma, big oil, and big deep state control. And that was taken with the struggle in the 1900s between Edison and Tesla, and they systematically made sure that he wasn't allowed to share that humanity, or what has now become like the essence of HARP, and what destroyed the towers. Um, was made available and public knowledge for people.
What we're trying to make public knowledge for you is that the deep state now has the capability to know what you're thinking, when you're thinking it, what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, who you're with, what you're doing with them, what you're eating, when you're sleeping, when you're shitting, when you're having sex, when you're
Okay,
having
no
a
more
shower.
credit, no more credit.
All right?
Sounds like a lot, but you still have your heart.
You don't even truly have, you do have your heart and your soul, but you don't even truly have the relationships that you thought you had because the people around you, even the people you love and the people who are going through it with you, can at any moment be made to say or do anything. And it's a hard pill to swallow.
If this thing, it absolutely it is. Almost impossible to. I'm barely digesting it myself with some of the things happening around us day to day. I have to say, before the thought sort of dematerializes in my head, is that if you become aware of this recurring cycle of the people around you who you love or anyone else denying that they said or did things that you were absolutely certain that they did,
Denial.
and vice versa. Yeah, exactly. And that is a recurring cycle. And if some of you have intuitive sense, you can tell when somebody is lying to you. No, I didn't say that. Oh, come on. Just that, right? You can tell it's not truthful. But then there's the times when you can tell your spouse who you're familiar with, your brother who you love, your mom who you've been, you know, next to your whole life. You just know some things when they're telling the truth. And it was started to happen to me. When did it start to happen to you, Pete? When you realized that there was this cycle of, or has it? I know you've had like, there's so many different facets of it, right? But I would say yes, you did say that. It would turn into an argument, and then
When did it,
no,
when you started to go through it with me is when it started happening to both of us. Yeah.
yeah,
Before that point where we were going through it together, I would just blow it off and be like, okay, you're fucked. To myself,
yeah,
right?
denial.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said thinks he doesn't say that, but he's obviously lying. But then you reflect, and you're like, he actually believes truthfully that he did not say or do that.
And it's happened to me too, where I've like said and done things where I've later been like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, um, when I sleep, I don't sleepwalk. When I sleep, they do take over my shell, my meat suit sometimes.
Yeah.
They get me to go around and taking out light bulbs, unscrewing vent covers, cutting my owner's shoes up, like just ridiculous stuff that's meant to like make your life just a little creepier, but there's no damage done. It's like a 4-year-old
Yeah.
playing with you, you know.
Yeah, it's all for the creation of, I don't know. I wish I had some paper here or something that I could. Uh, what would you call that then, Pete? I mean, I think Elon Musk has a pretty good name for it. Just basically, I think he does call it the neural network,
Oh yeah, for sure. We're all
right?
involved in the neural network.
The neural network, and
Humanity as a whole is all interconnected at this point. What has happened
totally.
was the chemtrails began for environmental manipulation. What it's evolved into is that these chemtrails are dropping nanotechnology down on humanity and
Oh,
all life, infecting us with nanotechnology, which is growing in our systems
wow.
into neurotechnology, which is basically what the UFO people call implants. So all of us are walking around implanted,
Oh,
interconnected,
it's
unable to have basic free will, freedom of thought, freedom
oh
of
my
mind.
gosh, it's incredible. Like it's and to what end? For what purpose? I. Some of us, like, we have kind of grown to use the terminology, like some of us get the good juice, some of us get the bad juice, right? Well, why are all these good things happening to this person over here in a way that's like seems systematically arranged for fantastic things to happen in their life, in their life, in their life, but your life and people's lives
And mine,
and
and my
my
mom's,
brother's life
and my sisters, and
turns
everybody
to
that loves us.
turns to mush
Yeah.
without reason. not as a matter of avoiding accountability, but you can smell the diabolical system of manipulation and destruction, only for the purpose that they absolutely have to siphon out negative emotion, negative juice in its most powerful, potent form for AI to suck on and to grow the machine, the neural network. That is the only plausible, feasible explanation for any of it that we have come to maybe be a little bit aware of. It's an idea. If any of you have thoughts on it, please
Thoughts or
stand
information,
for
please
sure. Yeah,
contact
yes,
us.
please.
We're talking about the neurochipping of humanity. We're talking about the microwaving of the human race, the cooking of humanity. We're talking about artificial intelligence. We're talking about remote neuromonitoring. Any information you have, any opinions you have, contact us.
If you want to talk to us and shoot us down, play the devil's advocate, be the devil's advocate, uh, counterattack, countermeasure, counter, think and help and grow, think like the way I think a political think tank used to hold itself, like we were gonna do something. Let's do something, because this we know this is happening to thousands. This is happening to 7.8 billion people. Is what it's happening to
And the time for change is here.
now.
So the emails are linklatep, LINKLATEP, at gmail.com, or
Kinetic Energy Penetrator at gmail.com between the both of us, Dave and Pete, and LinklaterDavid at gmail.com.
hope to hear from you.
Thanks, you guys.
Till next time.